Pulse Oximeter is a tool that we use to determine the amount of oxygen attached to your hemoglobin at any point during your training session. To use the Pulse Oximeter, you simply slide it onto your finger and press the button on the top. This will give you two readings. The reading on the left will be SpO2, and the reading on the right will be BPM, and that's for pulse rate. The number on the left is the one that we want to focus on as the SpO2. That's the one that's telling us how much oxygen is attached to the hemoglobin in our blood at that point in time. The number on the right is the heart rate. This one is still important, but with this meter, it's not accurate if you're using it while exercising. The one that we want to focus on is only the SpO2 while using this meter during exercise. As you can see here in this chart, having a resting SpO2 above 95 is considered normal ranges. From 92 to 94 is considered low, and below 92, critical. We see this in a lot of different conditions, so this gives us also an idea when we first start training with people. If their SpO2 is in these lower ranges, and we monitor it over time, we can typically see their resting SpO2 readings rise into the normal range from a deficient range, depending on the condition.
Now let's take a deep dive into how pulse oximeters work. Inside the pulse oximeter, there are two lights. One emits infrared light and the other emits red light. There is also a light detector to measure how much of both types of light are able to pass through your finger. Since oxygenated hemoglobin and deoxygenated hemoglobin absorb light at different rates, the sensor can measure how much of each type of light is absorbed by the detector and can calculate the amount of oxygen attached to the hemoglobin at that time.
Here are a few tips regarding the pulse oximeter. First, you can't use it if you're wearing nail polish. Nail polish will impede the sensor's ability to read your hemoglobin, and it just isn't going to give an accurate reading. So if you're wearing nail polish, it's not going to work. Make sure the batteries in the pulse oximeter are fully charged. They don't last forever. They actually only last a few months typically with regular use. If that, maybe 2 months. So keep a spare set of batteries on hand, and if you see that low battery indicator, just change it out because you are going to run through a lot of batteries with these pulse oximeters. This is a big one. If you're gripping the handlebars too tightly, that's going to lower the amount of blood flow through your hand. That's making it to the tip of your finger and give an inaccurate pulse oximetry reading. It's basically like a tourniquet, and the blood is not flowing properly, so we can't really measure the amount of oxygen-rich blood coming in or depleted blood going out properly if you're squeezing too tightly. So a light grip on the handlebars is needed to give a proper reading on the pulse oximeter. Also, if your hands are in curled positions, gripping too tightly, or excessive movement, these are all things that will give you an improper reading on the pulse oximeter. I know we're using this for exercise, so it would be ideal if you can move all over the place and grab everything you wanted and still read your pulse oximetry, but it's just not the case that the technology has made it there yet with these consumer pulse oximeters. There are pulse oximeters that can attach to your earlobe that are around $400 if you can find them, but you are attached to a cable which will allow you to do more movement. So that is something you can potentially look at. I believe it's the known-in 8500 that makes the earlobe sensor. And there are Bluetooth sensors that can display to external displays. I wouldn't really worry about getting the fanciest, nicest pulse oximeter. As you'll see in the training, we're only going to use the pulse oximeter for the first few protocols. And then after that, we actually start using the pulse oximeter a little bit less. So as you become more advanced with the system, you'll not rely on the pulse oximeter as much. It's just a tool, kind of like training wheels, to get you moving and understanding how the oxygen is moving inside in your body. But after a few months of training, you're going to be able to predict exactly what your SpO2 will be at any point during the training because you've built such a beautiful mind-body connection, with understanding how oxygen is moving through your body.